And welcome back to the Soul Sisters podcast. Today we have Orla Swan on the podcast. So I met Orla over 2 years ago now at an event in Sydney, and at the time I was going through a really hard time. I had just moved to Australia, I was transitioning my business, and I just didn't feel in alignment. I arrived at this event late and I didn't have a mat and I didn't think that I was going to do breathwork. I was going because at the time Orla was doing a talk and I wanted to see Orla's talk and I just didn't know what was going to happen. And then it has led to this beautiful journey 2 years later. And I can't believe that Orla's here to also share her journey of what has happened over the past 2 years with breathwork, with trauma, and really coming out on the other end as empowered and really embracing your authenticity. So, look, I don't want to fully introduce Orla because Orla's going to do a beautiful introduction herself. So, Orla, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to tell the listeners a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Thank you for having me. My name is Orla Swan, also known as the Health Hun on Instagram. I have many hats that I wear. I am a trauma, health, nutrition, intimacy coach, and then I also do Reiki. I do quite a lot of things. Tell me you've got ADHD without telling me. I started off, I suppose really just my journey has been kind of going from very sciencey, very logically, very much logic, evidence-based focus to really embracing spirituality and seeing how both of them are absolutely connected with the mind and the body and your soul. And I am absolutely a spiritual girly, and we're going to talk so much about that. I just think it's freaking crazy about how that one event has changed so much for you. We were just talking about that, the ripple effect that's happened for you, and like that's been my journey as well, that like I've gone dipping my toe in like different modalities along the way, and really when I suppose one step after the other. Like I did science for my degree, and then after college I decided to study nutrition purely for myself. I've got IBS, PCOS, and a lot of health issues in between. Most of them managed down, which is great. But for me in my journey, I've really felt that like I've always had to figure things out myself. So I've always just explored, learned, followed to see how I can support myself. And then along the way, I've learned how I can help other people with this as well, because there's always been that kind of, I suppose, gap in terms of education and empowerment for women, especially with like medical gaslighting. And now I can see it really in the mental health space when it comes to trauma, mental health, emotional healing. And I just continue to follow that. And then more recently, I've really looked into intimacy and pleasure and healing after sexual trauma, but most importantly, growth and energy. And I love so much of it. And I work one-to-one with women mostly. And we've gone on the journey of supporting them with their hormones, their gut health, their relationship with food and body image, to now expanding into nervous system, growth, relationships, their ego, their heart, just really helping them shift away from like burnout and survival traits to really feeling like they're actually thriving, they're authentic, they're safe to be authentic. And just so much, like I said, wear so many different hats. It's hard for me to even explain what I do sometimes.
I understand that. Like, honestly, I feel like as a business owner, you do wear so many hats, and it's like, okay, which one do I need to put on for this certain circumstance? And where do you feel like you dived into like all of like, say, the nervous system regulation, the trauma coaching, and the intimacy coaching? Where do you feel like was like the pivotal point where you were like, okay, like I'm going to start exploring all of this and start giving this to clients, because it's like something that obviously you're benefiting from?
So it was actually like 2020 again. I was kind of exploring like my own self. I could see that I worked with a lot of people on disordered eating and body image and gut health, and there's that connection with stress and your mindset and your mental health and emotional health when it comes to your physical health and the symptoms that will come from that. So I was able to help my clients to a certain extent and help them with behaviors and hormones and nutrition and supplements, but everything felt so surface level. It just felt like we'll get them to a point, but there was still like a missing piece. There was still inflammation that we weren't getting to the root of. There were still behaviors that would resurface that, yes, we were able to kind of react to or firefight, and they were able to manage it, but like we weren't resolving it. And I'm so I don't know if it's like hyper fixated or like have this urge to need to solve problems, but I think it's neurodivergent vibes that I just need to figure everything out myself. But I'm so solution focused, and I'm like, one thing that I really struggled with health in general, like across the board, mental, physical, emotional, was feeling like I was investing in services and products and not actually feeling better, not feeling like my quality of life was better. So that's been the thing for me. It's just like you get diagnosed with something or labeled with something, or you even research something yourself and you're very aware of all the symptoms you have, all the problems you have, but you don't actually feel like free of it. You don't feel like you've got it fully under control. You don't feel like you know the how to feel free, to feel safe, to feel healthy, to feel rested, to feel calm, to feel all these lovely things that we want and we deserve to feel. So yeah, it's really solution focused. And yeah, I started to question myself in 2020, to answer your question, was a turning point for me. That I really remember sitting in my room one day and like I was doing my coaching and just reflecting on myself, like, what is this extra piece? And I started learning about trauma online and the nervous system. And it was like this mind-blowing information to me at the time, because I remember even when I was diagnosed with IBS, we didn't know much about the gut-brain connection back then, and of your nervous system, which is impacted, your gut health can be impacted by your emotions and your mental health, and vice versa as well. So even that information, say like 8 years ago or so, was like revolutionary for me. When I would get support by doctors, they wouldn't mention anything to do with the nervous system and so on. So I just kept following that. I kept following the nervous system. I kept following trauma. And I think, what's his name? Mastin Kipp. I remember following his content so rigorously, and like every day he'd put up a new reel and I'd be just like obsessed with it. And then I had a flashback of trauma that I experienced when I was younger. And like, without putting sprinkles on it, I was absolutely traumatized. I had a resistance of, I can laugh about it now, but yeah, it did kickstart a journey of PTSD for me, and really question my whole life of understanding how that would have, I suppose, been a contributing factor to a lot of things that I've experienced in life. And I was like, okay, fuck, I clearly don't know how to deal with this. I need to go and seek support. So I reached out to start a therapy journey, and they had a wait list of 2 weeks because it was COVID. There was chaos happening at that point, of course. And within those 2 weeks, I thought I felt better, because I had talked about it with friends and cried about it and took some time off work. And then I thought that was how you process emotions. I thought that was like how you process trauma. And then because I was essentially like, what's that word again? Sorry, suppressing. Essentially suppressing that was my version of I feel better, right? It was like, I feel fine again. I'm able to eat again. I'm able to sleep again. I'm able to function again. That means I'm better, right? So that was like the August. And then I remember by the January, February, I just couldn't escape it. It was like getting worse and worse. I was getting more and more flashbacks. It was really disturbing my sleep, affecting how I could show up on my business online. And I was like, okay, shit, something's wrong here. So I did start therapy. I went to a therapist. I looked up a kind of trauma specialist. And again, I just really feel a big part of my journey has been therapy and counseling that I've worked with. Not to say that it doesn't help people, but it has not helped me. It's actually made me feel worse. And what I've learned now in my qualifications is that they don't bring the body on board with the mind. They don't create safety in the body first before going into the traumatic events. So, you know, I showed up in a state of complete chronic freeze and fight or flight and overwhelm and distressed, and what should have been offered to me was like tools to support me, to ground me, to help me feel safe in the now before going into any trauma and processing of that. So and that caused me to shut down again and just make me feel like this is just something I can't process, something I'm not able to be helped with. So much shame for me. And yeah, so again, this is just really like part of my journey that's been able to help me understand the issues in our systems and in what we need, I suppose, actual resolution with, and how we can actually support people in healing. Then fast forward again, kind of like you with in Bali, about a year later, about like 10 months later, I went and did a breathwork session, and that traumatized me again. That session brought up really like a child and really just showed me how not okay I was. Again, I thought I was fine. I thought I was able to cope with it, but again, it was just avoiding and suppressing. And yeah, then I began my qualifications in trauma. I sought support from a trauma specialist coach and began healing in a way that's kind of practicing what I do now, with bringing the body on board with the mind, processing the in a way that actually gets to the root, actually changes how it affects you in the now, rather than just talking about it over and over again or avoiding it and suppressing it. And yeah, I've just continued to follow that, for me, to be honest, and it's been also like a looking back, a grief, really understanding how that has impacted me across the board, how it's shaped my body, my nervous system, my health. With women, we suppress a lot of our emotions, our trauma, and it creates autoimmune issues, it creates inflammation. Yeah, like I had an eating disorder, I had so many different things that I can now see was just my body's way of coping, really my body's way of coping. And now I feel amazing.
Yay! I am so glad. And yeah, now you feel amazing and you're honestly #living the best life. But yeah, I completely like hear you with that, as in you knew for so long that you genuinely needed help to process what has been going on internally. And when you've reached out multiple times for help, to maybe not get this type of services in which you thought were actually going to help you from obviously credited individuals, it can allow you to almost lose a bit of trust in the whole journey of processing it all, because I completely relate to you on that as well. Like when I went to a breathwork practice, all like my past traumas came up and I was like, whoa, oh my God, I clearly need to like sort all this out. I thought I was over this, but really I was very good at suppressing with overworking or overeating or whatever it may be. I was just so good at hiding it and masking it. Went to a therapist and just instantly was like, no, like this isn't gonna like work, because I think subconsciously I sort of knew what you were saying, as in like you need to bring the body on board before you can go in and really talk about for me anyway, for really to allow yourself to like expose yourself to that, what happened, because then the therapist, then I think it was maybe 9 months later, I found my therapist, but she actually was an integrative therapist, and she was also trauma, like done a lot of trauma, done EFT, and obviously all about nervous system too. So I feel like working with someone who brought the body on board really helped me as well actually process it, because I think if I would have stayed it like just thinking about it and then suppressing it, I never would have come out the other end. Then I would have said, and then it just would have been like, it doesn't work. Like therapy doesn't work. Everything I've tried doesn't work.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, and it's like the internalized shame of that, of like, I'm broken, I'm not able to be helped. I've had the courage to open up, to try and ask for support, and I'm still not able to get answers and feel better and feel safe again. So there's such a chronic shame that just lives with people when it comes to actually resolving their trauma. And that's just something that I'm super freaking passionate about now, is that we don't have to just sit in it. We don't have to just be defined by our story. There is such a thing as post-traumatic growth, where we get to search for meaning and purpose. There's not meaning and purpose in everything we experience, absolutely not, but it's what version of ourselves do we get to become as a result of that? You know, I could choose to sit here and be defined by everything that I've experienced in life and have this poor me victim mentality, I suppose. And I don't say that without compassion. I'm choosing to actually see, what do I learn from these things? What can I shift around the version of myself that I am today, and what do I deserve to experience and feel today? And that's happiness and peace and love and safety and intimacy and yeah, just living a good fucking life.
You know, after years of maybe like suppress everything, because when you suppress a lot, you also suppress the joy, the pleasure, the intimacy. Like you close that part off, even though you may day to day be functioning, but you're not maybe feeling.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I always remember people used to be so shocked when they found out that I had like depression. Like I had severe depression, severe anxiety for some years, which I now know is CPTSD. But I like people were absolutely baffled because what I used to do was like go work like 4 or 5 days a week, be working full-time college, like 40-hour college course, try and go out 2 or 3 days a week, go to the gym at like 6 a.m. or 10 p.m. at nighttime. All my meals were so prepped and rigid, and yeah, just try and do absolutely freaking everything. I was performing, I was exhausted, I was literally just self-abandoning all the time to people please, to be seen as this version of myself who has it all together, when deep inside I was so freaking lonely, low, everything in between. And that was what I thought like my version of success was. And like now I've literally just told you that I just had a lovely little slow morning, had some cacao, did some cards, live like this is what I fucking want in life.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. And I feel like people want that too, but maybe we've been taught online, or maybe it's something that we have picked up, that the version of success is prepping all the meals, it's having everything like so rigid and having like your whole calendar jam packed. And really, I feel like true success is being slow and being okay with being like having slower mornings and being like, I don't need to rush anywhere. But definitely when I was in that like healing process, I wouldn't allow myself to stop because I didn't feel safe too, and that was scarier than moving forward. So what do you feel like has been the tools that have really helped you? Let's say, for example, maybe someone's listened to this now and they're like, yeah, or like I went to maybe talk therapy and it hasn't helped with me, and like you're saying about bringing it into the body. What advice would you give that person listening?
So I suppose there's so many things, but so I think reflecting back on my journey and just you're kind of reminding me about breathwork is I used to seek a lot of these random things. I used to seek like I've done breath work, I've done Kundalini, I've done Reiki, I've done therapy, I've done counseling, I've done coaching, I've done mushrooms, I've done like all the freaking things, right? And what I didn't realize was most impactful was really around my nervous system, my mind, the stories I told myself, the language I used, the perceptions I had, the parts of my past self that I suppress and or that projected onto my present moment. So like let me just think of an example. So let's just say, for example, you and me witness a car crash right now. Okay. Trigger warning for anyone listening if you've witnessed a really bad car crash, but this is going to be very light surface level. But essentially, based on my nervous system that morning, I could see that car crash and think of all these beliefs that kind of emerge after that, such as, okay, well, this was on a specific corner, so that means driving around this corner is dangerous. There could be a woman driving, and I could be like, okay, women drivers are unsafe and they're dangerous. And I could decide that it was a Hyundai car, so they're very bad quality cars, blah blah blah, right? I could also see that it's darkness in the evening, and I could decide driving at nighttime is unsafe. Okay, so I could just create this world view and perception world and how I carry myself as a result of witnessing that based on my line or just based on how I felt that day. Whereas you that because you've just meditated and life is good and you're feeling peace and you haven't really witnessed a whole lot of distressing things that week, that month, or even in your life, you're like, oh, that was a crash. And you deal with the emotions from that of maybe you had a bit of shock, maybe you had some anxiety, and then you move on. Okay. So I think for me, the biggest thing, and this is what I do in my coaching, is really about what is your language? Like where is your nervous system? How are you showing up? How are you supporting yourself? Not chasing so much externally to you, but going within. And that is the most uncomfortable fucking thing you can do in the world. Comfortable thing you can do in the world. Because, for example, when I was going inward, I would have urges to binge eat, right? When I would go in, I would have such self-critical self-talk that would be beating myself up, telling me what a horrible person I am, like picking apart my body with body dysmorphia. The narration of my mind was intrusive thoughts about what people thought of me, about how I was showing up. I was objectifying myself. I was bullying myself. I was all the things. I was telling myself I wasn't good enough in how I was performing for work. There is so much internal shit and chatter that has shaped me, from the stories I created from what I've experienced in life, the stories I created from how I'm perceiving people to treat me, and knowing the differences between what parts of my mind are active and or my nervous system. So we think we need to firefight negative thoughts with positive thoughts, but actually the way I work is really helping you find safety within your body and your mind and your nervous system, so that the thoughts aren't there. So I know that might sound a little bit complicated if people don't get it, but we have different areas of the brain that are activated when we are in fight or flight, when we're feeling safe, and even when we're in freeze. So I could be sitting here, for example, and just because I heard a loud noise, or let's just say I'm like, okay, I'm rushing for a meeting after this, I could start to perceive what you're saying to me in a negative way, or you might have a look on your face and I'm like, oh, she's thinking this about me, and start this inner chatter from that, right? This part of my brain, that's part of your amygdala, your fight or flight, your survival brain, your lizard brain, your inner Karen, whatever you want to call it, right? That brain could start speaking and like narrating and dictating what's happening, and I get to now choose to ignore that, to regulate, to know how to support my body in this. But that used to absolutely run the show for me. That used to be my script chronically. I used to feed it, I believe it. I used to believe that voice was me without understanding the education on how my body and my mind and my nervous system works. So for me, just to kind of summarize that, I think all of the other healing modalities are amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm doing a retreat workshop in Ireland in the next few weeks, and I think these things are amazing to go to for more than just healing, like connection, growth, expansion, the magic that we feel in these circles. Like even what you said, you went to one and what happened in your life afterwards, right? But I, for someone who really is trying to heal, someone who's really trying to change their life, the randomness, the sporadicness, the just dipping their toe in and out without being supported on the integration. So like dealing with, for example, what came up in breathwork is the integration afterwards. Like, how is that affecting you? How are you going to change your life? That's the most important thing when it comes to healing. And when you work on that, you can change so fucking quickly, like so quickly. Your healing doesn't have to be this journey that takes 5 freaking years of your life where you're constantly soul searching, constantly thinking like you need to change yourself, because that's not self-awareness, that's self-sabotage, that's just self-bullying, that's just, it's really not. And I'll put my hands up and say that I was on this healing journey for like fucking 5 years as well. But now what I know when it comes to what I practice in coaching and the tools and regulation and all of these trauma-informed strategies, we can change it so quick, and you don't have to spend so much of your life defined by your past.
Yeah, and I love that, which is so important. And I think that's a really important note to really make, like, because definitely will put my hands up and say that, like, sometimes you can go to all of these different events, and I feel like now, obviously, before, the past version of me was going to events because I was always searching for the next thing to make me feel okay. Like, I was searching for something outside of me, something outside of me to make me feel okay on the inside, when really it's all about going inward. But now when I go to events, it's all about, like, who can I connect with here? It's not necessarily the modality. It's like, oh, like, I feel like I know I don't like small talk. So I'm like, we can cut the bullshit with the small talk because we're all here. Because obviously we're deep beings. So I'm like, happy days, that small talk is cut. So that's why I do that. I'm like, we can get straight in. But it's so important, that integration period, because, like, you can go to all of these different events for years and years and years and years, but, like, you can still be in the exact same place, and it's integration that is the biggest change, because that's what that I was working through with my, like, therapist. Like, actually, she's a therapist, but she's also a mentor, and when we were working through that, it actually was the integration period was the most healing for me and allowed me to come out on the other end, which is beautiful. But if I didn't have someone there to help me understand my nervous system and my body through that, I would have stayed in that like chaotic, self-sabotaging energy, searching for everything on the outside of me. So yeah, if anybody's listening to that, like, it's asking yourself, like, am I going for someone to save me, or is it oh, you never know, because then you might actually go and you find someone who then you work with after, which would be so inspiring too. So yeah, integration is definitely the most healing thing that you can do, and it's, as you said, it can happen quicker than what you actually realize.
And we can have our own blind spots as well. It's like having someone that's there to support you can point out the ways that you're in your own way. Like, so for example, I work with a lot of women who deal with friendship breakups, and it's not really openly spoken about. And that can shape then how they view women or how they view themselves. And well, I deal with a lot of different things, but let me just use this example. Sorry, my brain is like, oh, I could talk with this, but no, one at a time. But basically, what can happen as a result of that is that they can decide that what happened in that, like, let's just call it their story, right? Their version of events is what happened, and now that's what they carry forward with them when they think about making new friends, or when they find someone pulling away, for example. They will have this activation of a trigger essentially, and not realize that there's actually a missing piece of how someone treated them in this situation, right? They'll think it's all their fault because of what they internalize, not realizing that that's actually their blind spot that's getting in the way of their healing, right? That's making them feel powerless. It's making them feel like they have to constantly have this guard up or seek control or fear that this is going to happen to them again, instead of understanding, well, I actually don't want to be friends with someone who treats me that way, for example. So having someone who's a coach or a therapist or whatever to actually show you and shift your perspectives can happen. Like, it can just shift things for you, like, instantly almost. And that's the big thing. If you try to do this healing journey like I did and you did for so many years of your life on your own, there can just be that heaviness, I suppose, and like limited perspective that just doesn't need to exist. It doesn't need to be something that you continue to operate from, because there can be always different perspectives at any given moment in time.
That is so true. And you're only ever like one perspective shift away from a completely different life, which is so inspiring to think.
I actually love in the mornings, I go into TikTok and I save a playlist of like, let's call them like spiritual, uplifting kind of messages, and they'll have like lovely little music in the background, and I have a playlist of like 120 of them, and I'll just play through them in the morning. So it really just sets the tone of my day, of like things to be grateful for, things to remember, and just really setting my perspective for the day. Like, because you could wake up like, oh my God, for example, I live beside a construction site, and I could be like, oh my God, it's noisy this morning. I didn't get to sleep in. I have to, and you could just start the day in a way that's very, let's call it negative, right? Or it could be even just, but you deciding what your perspective is going to be in any given situation, like what you said, it's literally just one change of a sentence, one change of your language, change of your mindset can change fucking everything, can change your nervous system, everything.
Yeah, and how I love that you know, you've went from this place to like feeling like you have to figure everything out to yourself to now living life in Dubai. What would you say to someone who's maybe like in the depths of the healing journey at the moment and really looking some empowerment coming out on the other side? Like, what would you say to that person who's listening?
I suppose your journey is your own. Like, don't your journey to anyone else's. That's the biggest thing that I see with clients, is that almost we have like a set container of like what coaching could look like, but they'll even expect themselves to be in a certain place at a certain stage of, like, say, week 6 or something, for example. And every single person is on their own journey, and that is so important that you do that, right? It's about you constantly meeting yourself where you're at, or your coach, your therapist helping meet you where you're at. And if you spend your life comparing yourself to other people, you're not going to be on your own journey and on your own timeline, and you're creating so much resistance that does not need to be there, right? I'm 30 now, And let's just say, for example, the biggest thing with 30 is like, I should have the kids, I should have the house, I should have blah, 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 right? When I turned 30 2 months ago, I was single. I was living alone, and now I've got a boyfriend, and that just happened. But when I was 30, I was very satisfied with being single. I was very satisfied with who I was as a person and where I was in my life. I didn't achieve half of the shit that I wanted to achieve, but my biggest achievement is like literally who I am as a person. That is my biggest achievement, because it's really centered in my heart. It's really centered in my being, my authenticity, not the performance, not my ego, not what I need to prove to the world, because I spent so much of my fucking life doing that. It's so boring and exhausting, and I'm so over it. Now, it's obviously good to have things to look forward to and create, and I have so much passion and purpose in what I do, and that is also achievement for me. But you have to just honor your seasons, and there are seasons for going inward. There are seasons for dropping things that you do not have the energy or capacity to give to other people, right? There are also seasons for thriving. There are seasons for maintenance, where you're not necessarily feeling the top of the world, but you don't have to always be soul searching and healing and looking into your triggers and whatever else. And it's really important you just come back to honoring what it is that you need like right now. And if you create resistance with that and avoid and suppress and just pretend everything's fine, or wish everything was going to be fine, you're going to prolong that for yourself. You're absolutely going to prolong that. And that's been a big thing for me, is that I've just constantly honored my seasons and honored my journey. So for example, I thought Australia was for me, and there was fucking everyone around me was in Australia, and I had to just trust in myself, this deep knowing and my intuition that this wasn't for me. I didn't know what my next steps were, and it freaked me the fuck out. So I just got a one-way flight to Dubai and just decided to see what would happen next. I know that might sound terribly scary and overwhelming for people to just get a random one-way flight, but those kind of things of trusting myself, of honoring myself, of honoring my needs, my visions, all these different things has led me to where I need to be. And the times where I've resisted that has literally made me feel so disconnected from myself and so just, not happy, not safe, not peaceful, whatever. So honor your seasons, honor yourself, trust in yourself, your intuition, your body has so much freaking wisdom. And when you fall, magical freaking things happen.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. And I love that you touched there on different seasons of your life, because that's something that I resisted for years. Like I resisted that maybe I needed to go into healing girl, or I resisted that maybe I needed to focus a little bit more on business. I resisted that maybe I'm just in maintenance and I don't have to have everything figured out. Maybe I'm just on a baseline. And I feel like the performance eating was always have, because I was actually talking about this to a friend before coming on this podcast. There can be that also like rabbit hole of toxicity of constantly on a self-development journey. There does come a point where like you don't need to do all of the things. Like you can just be in you and exactly what you've said. Like I am my, like, who you are as a person is the thing that you're most proud of. Of course, it's amazing to have, like, obviously that's projected then out onto your career and your work and what you do with your clients, which is beautiful, but that is you as well. Like your business is you, which is obviously everything in which you've worked on. And that is like genuinely amazing. And then going against like societal norms of not having all of like the babies, the house, the boy, whatever it is before like 30, and like there's nothing to say that there's anything wrong if like that is what you want in life, but it's stopping to ask the question like, is that a life that's true to me, or living a life in someone else's story? Because I know that I've definitely done that many a time, and I feel like I have always been maybe the person who's went against the grain, but every now and then I would have fell off the path, and then like maybe was unauthentic. And I feel like that was the biggest thing for coming back here, was like when I was coming back to Australia, I had no idea why. I just knew that like my body needed to come to Australia, and I was only meant to come for a trip, and now it has been extended. I'm like, oh shit. But if I didn't, like you, like if I didn't trust myself, I wouldn't have landed where I am. And sometimes it can be so scary trusting yourself, but your body has so much wisdom when you regulate your nervous system, when you really tap in, like she will talk to you in levels that you didn't even realize.
Yeah, and I also love what you said there, like that self-development rabbit hole, it can become an identity. Like you mentioned, the healing girl identity, and this is such for people in general, but especially women. Like we feel we need to put ourselves in boxes, and you absolutely can. You can change as much as you want to, as much as you need to. Like I am not the version of myself that I was. I was looking back at the pictures of in Australia at that event 2 years ago. Who the fuck was she? Like, I don't know her. Like, because, and I said that with love, but like the things that she tolerated, the thoughts that she had, the beliefs that she had, the behaviors she had, like, I'm so fucking far apart from her, and I love her for what she went through. But it's just, we can really put ourselves into boxes of who we feel we need to be accepted, to be liked, to be loved, to be worthy, to be perfect, to be all these different things. And you do not ever have to put yourself into any one identity. Like even my identity was like being the health one for a while, so I thought that meant that, you know, I had to be this version of myself that couldn't be a little bit unhinged, or couldn't be wild and dancing and go drink every so often, or because I am into trauma and mental health, I can't make dark jokes sometimes, or little things. So it's just these expectations that we have, and it's like, who are you truly? And that can evolve, that can shape shift, that can change. Last week on my PMS, I was a little bit moody. I was really in my hermit, in my shell. And now this week I'm feeling really enlightened spiritually, but I'm also feeling a little bit spicy, and I'm all like, I haven't danced and shake my ass in a while, and I really feel like I fucking need to do that this weekend. And like, that's what you get to discover beyond trauma, beyond pain, beyond what you've experienced in your life, is this magical journey of exploring what lights you up. And like I said, that can change from moment to moment, and not feeling like you have to be defined by one career, or defined by one relationship, or defined by one country that you live in, or whatever it is, one belief, one set of beliefs that you had before. And just allowing yourself to continue to meet yourself where you're at, and trust that evolving. And yeah, just really letting that happen.
Yeah, for sure. And it is really allowing like that sparkle to come out, and allowing you to not like to be all like versions that you want, like shaking your ass at the weekend or being like a little hermit. Like, who said that you have to be one certain thing? But I really, sometimes when you're actually going through that, you can really think that you can't change, but you can. And when you allow yourself to say, do one little change or do one thing different, you then start to create so much self-belief and so much safety within yourself that I can do like whatever I want. Like I can do what my body wants me to do. Because I remember when even stepping into like this work, I was very much like riddled with anxiety, that like I was like, no, like I always have to be a personal trainer and blah 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 blah. When really that didn't light me up anymore. Like talking about training and calories, that I was just like, I can't do that anymore. But as soon as you cut the ties and you're like, no, like I'm going to go fully into the job that I want to go into, it is so refreshing. And then also you get to inspire other people to do the same thing, who's came out of trauma and really start to come into really their body again, I would say, and be in the body that they're in.
Yeah, really honoring. I love the word honoring, because it's just like, what do you need right now? And like, it's just really so important. Like, one thing I've always done well over the last few years is like leave the country, leave the relationship, leave the job, leave whatever it is that's not serving me at that point. And I know people say to not always leave straight away. So if you are someone who impulsively leads things, maybe don't take this advice and think things through a little bit. But I've processed it rationally, and then I decided to leave, is what I mean. But I feel we have this need to endure, to wear like as a badge of honor, and you just don't have to. Like, you really don't have to. You can change anything in your life, shift any perspective, any belief, create any desire, and step into the version of yourself that you know you want to become, that you see on your vision board, that you see in your meditations, that you look in other people and see it projected onto, God, she's so confident, or she's a speaker, or she's so authentic in her dancing, and whatever. These are desires that are there for you for a reason, and you get to follow that. And it doesn't have to be in the next 2 weeks, it can be over the next 2 or 10 years. But I urge you, for true fulfillment and satisfaction, to follow these little baby steps, follow these little urges and desires.
And when you start following them, things start to move quicker than what you actually expected. Like, for example, you said like 2 months ago you didn't have a boyfriend. Now you do, and it's like, wow, shit. Obviously, you were following these urges and these desires all along, which is so inspiring. And it's then like come back to like, what does success and happiness actually look like to you, and what does it feel like to you? What would you say that feels like and looks like to you?
For me personally,
Yeah.
To be honest, it's always changing. But it's freedom for me, like freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of freedom to express myself how I want to feel safe in that, to feel authentic in that, to really feel that like I'm not caged in any way in my relationships, in my voice and how I share things online. That's like, I suppose that's one of my values, like my top value. And the rest of my values is like health, peace. I can't even remember the rest of them right now, but I live life in alignment with my values, and that really goes out. But I use my body and my nervous system to show me when I am in alignment, when I am showing up for myself the best. Like, that's not always just because I've got anxiety, something's wrong. Sometimes I need to call myself on my shit and get to bed early. Sometimes it means I haven't been meditating every day. Sometimes it means I'm entertaining things that I shouldn't be, or not following through with things that I need to, right? It's not always just your feelings and responding to them. Sometimes it's actually about what is contributing to your feelings that you have a role to play in, right? But yeah, for me, success really is the life that I'm living now, which is just really feeling like I'm in flow, really feeling like I'm connected, really feeling like I'm safe to thrive. There's expansion, and I used to feel so much shame about, like, I think as women, that we feel that we shouldn't ask for more, we shouldn't ask for money, we shouldn't ask for growth and all these big things. We should just be grateful for what we have. And I'm like, no, I like to live the life that I'm living right now, which means I get to go to the pool for lunchtime, or I get to dress up in a nice dress and feel nice for the day, or some days going and working a 10-hour day and wearing a tracksuit. And it's just really letting myself honor what feels good for me, honor my menstrual cycle, and yeah, honor my seasons. I'm in the season right now, not really wanting to drink and kind of do too much socializing, but I know that's going to change when I go to Ireland next week, and we're going to meet up with everyone. I can't wait.
Yeah, I love that. 100% honoring the seasons, honoring your freedom, and honoring your values. And I feel like sometimes in life, when you can feel really dissettled, either it's a dissettled nervous system, or you're not living in alignment to your values.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people are like afraid to make decisions. So for example, I knew that Australia, this is a crazy story, but I literally created a vision board on Tuesday. I think it was like the 15th of January or something. And I created this big, expansive luxury life vision board with all these big crazy things. And I just looked at it and I was like, that is not my life in Australia. Like, it was just this knowing, this intuition of like, that's not going to happen here. And I was like, okay, maybe you're being negative, maybe like you're limiting yourself, maybe you need to move states, maybe whatever. And then literally on the Friday, I got a call about a visa that was like, no, the visa option for the nutrition that you wanted to do was not going to go ahead. It might take 2 or 3 years. My whole thing that I had planned 3 months before that was meant to be going ahead wasn't happening. So anyway, long story short, I shifted in, I left in 3 weeks. But it was like the vision that I was creating there, almost in that moment, I was like, I need to shrink myself. I need to tell myself that this happened, that this is, be realistic. This is not going to be, this is out of reach for you, right? And if you look at my vision board from 5 years ago, I'm living it now. And that was just a random fucking vision board that was my first vision board that I didn't really think much of. Even there's references of Dubai in it, and I never ever wanted to move to Dubai. It was never on my radar. I didn't even know what the skyline of Dubai looked like, but it's on my vision board. It's crazy. So when you see these things that you want in life, when you see these goals, you have these visions as purpose. If you find yourself shutting it down and it feels huge, that's because you're meant to grow into that. That's because you're meant to expand into that, and you can. But don't tell yourself to be realistic. Don't suppress it. Like, let yourself to grow into it.
That is so, literally give me goosebumps hearing that. Honestly, it's so inspiring, and it's 100% allow yourself to grow into it, because like you will be able to achieve the things in what you want to achieve. And I particularly think this around women, especially around like freedom and money and all of that, that it's such like a taboo topic, but that is like your needs, and that's completely fine for you to want them needs. Like that is okay. And I love that it's create the vision board, and sometimes it's not necessarily the place in what you thought it was going to be. Because I genuinely didn't think I would be back in Australia. I was looking at houses at home. I had the vision board, blah 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 blah. I actually had a man out, and I got planning permission to build my own house. And like I just completely was like dead. I was like, why aren't I excited? Like, why aren't I like loving life? And I just was like, this isn't for me. Like, am I building something that's not actually mine? Like, do I even want this? And then I started to realize, like, Eden, your dream is to live beside the beach. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't lose sight of your vision. And then it was at that moment that I was like, oh my God, I've lost sight of my vision. And within, I think it was 6 weeks, I was in Australia.
Wow, I love that so much.
Yeah. So you're only ever one choice away from something completely different.
Absolutely. And if you just allow yourself to follow that, like I know if you are someone who is heavy in survival mode, who has a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of control, it's very difficult for you to like receive some of the things that we're talking about here, to like, oh yeah, don't worry about it, I'll just fucking trust things and let things go and get a one-way flight. Yeah, okay, watch me fucking do that, right? So I do get that. I do get that there was points in my journey that I was like, it's not that simple, they don't get it, they're different to me, they don't have the same struggles in life that I have. I'm no fucking different than any of you listen, if that's where you are in your journey. I've been through it, don't get me wrong, I've gone through it, but it is possible for literally fucking everybody, and I'm so passionate about that. Like, I am not special. I will hold my hands up and say I'm not fucking special. I've just learned how to do it. I've just learned the skills, the tools, the strategies. I've also winged a lot of fucking things, and I've failed, and I've learned lessons along the way, and I've fucked things up, and I've had to change my plans, and I've lost money, and I've had friendship breakups, and I've had fucking loads of things happen along the way, but it's all been part of my journey. It's all led me to where I am today. And that's what it is. It's just your journey. Like I said, it's your seasons, your journey, your life.
Yeah, I love that. And what would you say is, like, if someone is feeling stuck in that, maybe in that, what would you say is the one piece of advice that helped you change your perspective for that, to just go for it?
One piece of advice? Fuck me, I can't give one. No, I'll try. I think we need, so I used to never want to push my spiritual beliefs onto people, right? But I think when you are struggling, we need hope. We need hope and trust in something beyond ourselves. Because when you're by yourself, you're going to try and survive by yourself. And for me, a big part of my journey over the last 2 years was trusting in a higher power. I've always, since 2020, I've been manifesting and trying to be spiritual and talking about the universe and talking about whatever. But in the last year and a half, 2 years, I've really started to open up to the concept of God again, and still interchangeably saying God and universe. So like, you can say whatever you want, God, Allah, whatever suits you, angels, guides. And it's just really important that you find that, and that comes through you, right? It comes through through your connection, the time that you dedicate to yourself. Like I literally just do a 10-minute meditation every day. And for me, that changes everything for me, and my energy, my frequency, my thoughts, my safety, my beliefs. Even like I said, those messages on TikTok that I watch in the morning just gives me a different shift in perspective. To trust in, yes, there are really fucking horrible things happening in the world. Yes, there can be horrible, painful things happening in your life. Yes, you could feel like you don't have it all figured out, like you've got a lot of fear. But there is absolutely, and I'm certain about this, there is so much that you can release. And I suppose kind of envisioning like a relaxing and exhale that happens when you start to trust in something beyond yourself, when you start to speak to something beyond yourself, when you start to manifest or pray or meditate or whatever it is. And there was periods of my life where I really thought like, that doesn't work, no one's listening to me, I don't believe it because I don't see it, right? But the more you focus on this, I really truly believe that it's not going to happen immediately, but you will see a shift in yourself over time and feel like there is good in the world again, and there is a reason to be happy and grateful, and gratitude is just so important.
So important. Gratitude is so important, and I love that. I do really feel like I do, like, to my core, there is something bigger out there than us, and I feel like again, sometimes you'll not have the visible signs, as you said, straight away, but the little divine alignments, the little synchronicities, you can't deny them when they keep happening. Like, there definitely was a phase in my journey, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, that I was like, called bullshit on and all, but really it was my own denial and maybe my own resistance to changing something, so it wasn't, like, aligning. And it's actually something I started to do in my notes, which I wish I started this sooner, to be fair, was like divine alignments that happen on a day-to-day basis, because sometimes I do journal and show gratitude, but like little divine alignments on a daily basis, so that I can always keep record of like where the journey is leading you, because it'll give you evidence. And sometimes, things can swing around the opposite way, which is totally okay too, but it's looking back on the evidence of like, this is all what happened before the alignment.
I love that so much. I thought about doing that a few times, and I'm like, oh, it's been too long. There's so many things that I can't remember, but I freaking start. I really should. But there was something that you said there, evidence. Yeah, like we can build evidence around anything. This goes back to this perspective.
Yeah.
So you could start building evidence now that or you could have so much evidence of people are toxic, hurtful, blah, 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 right? But it can be very difficult for you to receive, for example, what we've said today, if that's your life experience. Like, there's no denying that's your life experience, and you have to process that. You have to process the emotions around that. You have to process the traumatic events, the triggers, all of that, for you to actually be able to receive this and believe this. But you can't just toxic positively think your way into God is good and the fucking universe is great, blah blah blah. You can't do that. But you can start with trying to seek that evidence of, like what you said, gorgeous divine alignments of things that are happening, good small little things, like even just like fucking seeing happy dogs, or seeing like an old person being cute, or like someone smiling at you, or saying thank you, or opening the door for you, whatever. There's so many little things. Look for them. I think they're called glimmers, aren't they?
Yeah.
That we're always looking at our triggers, and really that is your part of your brain that's trying to keep you safe. But if you intentionally try to seek those glimmers, it can really, really help.
Absolutely. And seeking the glimmers in everyday life, I feel like when you rehearse that, it's more evidence. And then eventually that's what you see, and that's what you believe in, which is where the true transformation happens. So I love that. Do you have anything exciting coming up? I know that you have the retreat in Ireland next week. Is there anything else that you have exciting coming up?
I've really just been focusing on my coaching. That I've actually haven't done any retreats or events since last summer. So yesterday I was sitting there and I was like, I actually think I want to do another one. So maybe stay tuned. But yeah, we have one on, I'm not sure when this podcast is going to come out, but we have one on the 6th of July in Ireland. So you can have a look my social media for tickets there. But yeah, we're going to create like really a lot of things that we spoke about today, really nervous system regulation, emotions processing, quantum leaping, meditation, like the version of yourself that you are, and really that connection and alignment, and Reiki and yin yoga and gorgeousness all wrapped into one. But yeah, most of the things that I'm working on at the minute is my coaching and really expanding that and really helping with education. Like I have so many clients I work with that are so highly intelligent, and they might not think that they are, but they learn, they research, they seek all of this information, but they don't have the right information, or it's random, or it's not applicable to them. So I'm really just going all in on my coaching at the minute, because I really want it to be a place for women to just have this transformation. And I'm actually working from a business perspective. They're working with me for the 3 months and they don't need me afterwards. And I'm like, oh shit, we haven't had this before. Because I'm like, we've come up with a new business strategy, but it's really giving them everything that they need to carry forward. My program is called Rebirth for a reason, because it's like, shift the identity, like really become the version of yourself that you know that you fucking can be. And that's something that I know true to my fucking core, that we don't have to stay stuck in pain. We don't have to be defined by things that we've experienced in life. And when we know how, so like I said, they have a lot of information. They know the what, they know the why, even why they are the way that they are, why they feel what they feel, why they're triggered by the different things. But it's the how and the integration, and that's what creates that long-term change and shift in how they show up in the world, and how they speak to themselves and treat themselves, and what they tolerate. And we need more fucking women not tolerating shitty behavior.
It is so true. We need more women like that, and we need more empowerment like that, so women can call their behavior out and really set the standards for how they want to be treated and how we deserve to be treated, more importantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Power to you, sister.
Yes, I love it. I will link your Instagram below, and if anybody, I feel like, oh my god, it's like the work that you're doing is absolutely incredible, and it's so empowering, and it has such a ripple effect. So thank you for being you. Thank you for showing up so authentically. It's such an inspiration, and thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. It means a lot.
Thank you for having me. It's been a gorgeous conversation.
Thank you. I'll speak to you soon. Bye. Hello. Oh, I wanted to get talking to you after. I'm so sorry. I hung up the Google Meet. I'm so sorry. It's so rude. Hello, I'm so sorry that is so rude of me, but I was trying to join to say thank you so much, Orla, for your time. Thank you so much for your expertise. Thank you so much for absolutely everything. It genuinely means the world to me, and I know that so many people are going to benefit from the conversation. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I was trying to get back on. I just realized that I hit the wrong button. I'm so sorry.